We are doing Monday's Daf, which is on Daf Mem Zayin, and we hope and we'll pray. The learning that we're learning now together, all those missiles that Yimach Shema Mazuchram are sending out to Yisrael should not in any way chas v'shalom cause any harm to any of the Am Yisrael. We're up to Daf Mem Zayin Amar Aleph, and we're continuing the sugya about Madbei and Nasa Chalipin or not, and we brought a range of Amarayim that hold Amarayim that Madbei does not become Chalipin. And we're up to Hidaf Mem Zayin Amar Aleph, and the Gemara begins Omamar, about 20 lines from the top of the page. We learned before that Abhuna said you take a handful of money and you don't count the money in your hand, so it looks more like Chalipin. And remember, we learned that two madreg is a chalipin, whether chalipin is symbolic or whether chalipin is shava b'shava. Nevertheless, Rabbi Huna says that even it's not shava b'shava because you're just scooping a handful of money in your hand, and you say, "Look, mechoyli be'elu, it's chalipin kana yu'akaina." And then we had a machlekes, since it's chalipin, is there a din of a no here or not? Because you use the word mechoy. However, we're 20 lines into the page. Mem Zayin Amar Aleph. However, the question is, we're having a discussion whether Mabeya becomes Chalipin or not. That Abhuna is clearly saying here, we're talking about Chalipin here, and yet you're saying that in exchange, what's in my hand? So we see that Mabeya Nasa Chalipin, that he could even, not only he can be on the receiving end, which we had a discussion yesterday, but also he can activate the Chalipin. How can that be? We just learned Abhuna said, if you take a handful of mice and you say that I want you to sell me based on what's in my hand, you're koine. On the other hand, on the one hand, it's chalipin, but because you said mechoy, there's also which means if you charge too much, a sixth, then the money is returned, refunded, and if it's more than a sixth, and the whole sale is bottled. Lema, let us say that clear. The fact that he said you can scoop a handful of money and say, here, in exchange of this, let's sell me, that's chalipin. And we had a whole discussion. We just yesterday brought down all these Amoraim who say that money cannot be chalipin. And we gave the reason why money cannot be chalipin, because it's not similar to a nala, not similar to a shoe. Because you daita atzurasa, and that when you look at money, you don't only look at the intrinsic value, you also look at the fact that it's minted by the government, and the government can change its mind whenever it wants. So therefore, it cannot be used as chalipin. Here, clearly, you use chalipin. That's what the Gemara thinks. Says the Gemara, no, Rav Huna, the last line of Rav Huna. Rav Huna savlak Rabbi Yechon. Rav Huna holds like Rabbi Yechon, and we're going to have a machlekes on the days, which we'll talk more about then. Whether mahatoida, money is kaina or mashiach is kaina. We'll also have in Kreidus and other places of it. Whether money is kaina or mashiach is kaina. We'll talk more about it later. So Rav Huna holds like Rabbi Yechon that mahatoida, money is the kinyan. It's only with the rabbanon that we said we want you to do a mashiach. We want the buyer to take it and bring it into his own rishus. The only reason why Chachamim say no, we want mashiach because otherwise the meicher has the money, and the buyer's crop is sitting in his warehouse, and there's a fire or a flood, he won't bother. He'll say, it's your wheat that's burnt. It's your problem. Which we'll talk more about that as well. Is Gazu bar Rabbanon. Rabbanon therefore made a decree and said, no, Mai is not kind of. But in this case, this kind of a case where you scoop a handful of money, since it's not a common thing, money is kind of. So it's not chalipin here, it's actually a kinyan of mice. And we're relying on a Torah. That means. We'll discuss that when we get on the base more. We'll get more about the B'yechon Shlakish soon. But then, if you learn that pshat, it's not chalipin, it's really mois. Then then definitely he holds the yeshloi olavano. He holds there is a no, because it's mamish a normal case of a sale. So you have to follow the parameters of a sale. Says the Gemara, Marhuna, the son of Rav Nachman Ravashi. It's so difficult sometimes to work it out. How did Rav Nachman, who was a Rebbe of Rava, and the Gemara in Gittin says that when Rava passed away, Rav Ashi was born. So Rav Huna, the son of Nachman, had a discussion with Rav Ashi, as if either Rav Ashi, when we had in traces ones that there are two Rav Ashis, sometimes you have to say that, or Rav Ashi lived a very long time, or Rav Huna, the son of Nachman, lived a very long time. Exactly. Something like that. It'd be wonderful to sit down and go through the Gemara, every discussion to see what's going on there. Did they actually talk to each other or not? Anyway, this is how you learn it. This is how we learn it. In fact, Rav Huna himself clearly says Matbeya cannot activate Chalipin. Forget about being on the receiving end, cannot even activate. So how are you koinen? Now a new question. When it comes to Chalipin, what's Chalipin? The symbolic Chalipin. I give you, let's say, the handkerchief, the kerchief, and you in exchange will give me whatever it is. Who actually had more Nadorim? Remember Nadorim? We had more Nadorim that the item goes back to the original owner. But apart from that, who is the one who gives the item? Is it the matna or the king? So, and what's also machlekes? It's the buyer, which is the halach. And why talk to the koina? Why is the koina giving this? The nichele koina, the levi makna koina. He wants it to happen straight away. So he's very happy to give his item to the makna. He wants the guy to sell, not change his mind. So he wants to cement the kinyan. So he gives him the symbolic kerchief. But Levi says, "Bekelev shel makna." Levi said it's the makna who's giving the object, also gives the kerchief. Can be in the middle. Come on, like we'll soon bring them up. We already had a few times the Gemara. The Gemara already knows what they're going to talk about. Yeah, they already know what they're going to talk about. The Levi who says Bekelo Shamakna, the Gemara understood right now. The Gemara understood what's shot. Why does the makna have to be the one that gives the sudar? Because the makna gives the sudar, and agav the sudar, you're also kind of whatever the item is that he's selling. Kinyan agav and kedushin. Yeah, exactly. So what kinyan are we talking about over here? This whole idea of chalipin is like a kinyan agav. Now what agav, this thing that I'm giving you, you're also kind of this, which is very modern because I can also do chalipin for karka. And the Gemara in Kedushin says that kinyan agav is that you're buying the karka, agav that you go so you kind of metalfin. But you can't do it the other way around. I'll be kind of metalfin and agav because which is more superior? Which is superior? Agav is karka. So you can't say agav, which is by the way secondary. You're kind of metalfin, you're kind of karka. Can't be. So how can it be hakakona? We know that the king of Chalipin works also for Karka. Yeah, how can that be? If because right now the Gemara understood that Chalipin works without the Kinyan Agav. How can that be? We look in Fedish, so what exactly is it? Why is the Kalim Shamakni? Because we understood the Kinyan Makni because that's how Chalipin works, it's Kinyan Agav. How can it be? He said back to him, okay, above the Lashon. You're having a discussion about Levi. You know something? If Levi would have been here, he would give you a petch, he give you a clip of the fiery whip. Me, Savi, Glima, Maknale. You think that the Kenyan is Agav, and therefore when I give you the Sudar, Agav the Sudar, everything else is so. This is the same thing we had of Chesed Kedushin, that if an Adam Chashuv, if a woman who has to accept the Kedushin, but if she gives the Kedushin to Adam Chashuv, the Hana that she receives, that this person was Makabel, the Kedushin, that so she received something with Shawapruta. It's exactly the same word over here. He says, Bahi Hana, the Kamakabel B'nei, Gomba Va'aknila. The fact that the Lokeach is prepared to accept the Sudar, the Makna received something in return from the Koina. He received that Hana. And that's the Kinyan Chalipin. So he got paid with Hana. The fact that you're happy to go ahead with this Kinyan. And you took my Sudar. You want to say, in fact, it's a machlekes Tanoim. What happened? It says in the pasuk in the rules, the Zois lefanim b'Yisrael. This is how it used to be by the Eden. Al hagoula al hatamura. This is how it used to be by the Eden. Al hagoula when the redemption of when they're swapping at what the kain kodavet in order to make sure that it happens. Shalaf ish nala. Each one removed the shoe, and also they gave it to a friend. Geula. What do you mean redemption? That's tantamount to mechira, buying something. So they used chalipin, this method, when they want to buy something. And the Chenoim says in the pasuk, how do you know that it means buying? Because it says the pasuk when it comes to the end of Vayikra, when it talks about tumura, it says that you shouldn't swap good or bad and everything else. It says that the tumura is also kaidish, lo yigoil. You cannot buy back from hegdish. So we see that yigoil is buying. Lo yigoil. Tumura zu chalipin. Tumura is a swap. That's chalipin. You shouldn't swap it. L'kayim called okay. Lo yameroisai. This sounds more like the kind of chalipin which is shava b'shava, equal exchange. But the idea of chalipin is there already. Lekayim kol davar. Then the pasuk says that this kinyan is going to validate whatever you're doing. Shalavish na'alei v'nosadeya min nasalmi. Who gives the shoe? Now this what happened. Boyaz, the first one in line was Pliny Almighty. He had the rights to marry Rusin and then get all the entire estate. Pliny Almighty wasn't interested. So then Boyaz, next in line, bought the rights from Pliny Almighty. So Boyaz bought the rights from Pliny Almighty. I'm just. I think I just lost my picture. Just 1 second. Oh yeah. So Pliny Almighty sold the rights to Boyaz. Boyaz was a buyer, and he made exchange with the shoe. So who gave the shoe? Boyaz the buyer, like Rav says, or Almighty the seller, like Levi said. So Boyaz Nasan the girl. Tanakama says Boyaz the buyer gave it, like Rav. And Abuda says Goyal Nasan the buyer. The Pliny Almighty, we don't know his name. So Pliny Almighty, or that in fact maybe that is his name. Pliny Almighty gave it to Boyaz. The seller, the vendor, gave it to the buyer. Tani we learned. Okay, that's so we see clearly this is machlekes. So we learn koinin bekli av b'sheish pruta. You can use for the chalipin even a kli which is not worth a pruta. Nachman holds you can only. This is the machlekes we alluded to before. Ela bekli av the paid. It has to be like a shoe, not paydas, and it's definitely not money. And Rav Sheish not feeling paydas. Rav Sheish says Naila doesn't necessarily mean a shoe. It means even you can expand it, include any paydas. Says the Gemara. Even thing which is not a keli, a utensil. My time only a shoe, similar to a shoe, has to be a keli, a five to a complete thing. My time with Rav Sheish says, Omar Krot says the puzzle like kayim kol dover. I mean, it was teaching not only to validate every transaction, but to validate to use anything that you want. I'm not going to see the kayim kol dover. Says yeah, I will kayim kol dover the nickname of malno. Kol dover means not what you're using, but what's on the receiving end. Anything can be included. Like I said before, according to most opinions, that money can be included as well. But Absheish Nam Yaksib Na'alo, he says in Fraser Shoe. Absheish Man Nali Dover, I'm assuming it has to be a complete thing. I've called Dover, I'm assuming it has to be a complete thing. La Fuki Chatzi Rimoin, Chatzi Ego is the loy. Now we say that if you have a big piece of material, you can use part of it as if it's cut off. But over there it's still a whole thing. 3 by 3 is considered minimum for a patch for a poor person. That's a whole thing. Anyway, look at today when they did a chalipin, they used to write a contract. Who when used to write, today they write the money we're using a keli, the kosher lemekanya that is useful to buy with. What does each word mean? The mana keli l'chayda, that sounds like a nachm. La fuke midrav sheishes who said you can use anything. No, it has to be a keli. So that the halach it has to be a keli. The kosher when we kosher. La fuke mid Shmuel Damar. Shmuel says kainin b'meruka. He said you could use a keli. Okay, keli made out of dung. Says no, it has to be something a little bit more kosher. Something more kosher. To buy with, in other words, who's giving the item? The buyer. Levi says the kale of the makina. Says no, the kale of the koina. So who's the one? We pass him like Rav, the makina. The koina. The koina is the one who, when you go sell the chametz, who's the one who gives you the gash? The mekanya I think it's a mistake here. So it's supposed to be Lemekanya v'loy la'aknuye. Not like liknuye means not to buy, but le'aknuye. It says here on the side. It's supposed to be. No, it's to buy with and not to sell with. No, the buyer is the one who gives the item to make the chalipin. Now Papa says and bay. Then it says bay. Aknuye bay. What does the bay mean? With it and not what? What else is there left to exclude? Now Papa we don't use a coin for chalipin. To asa something which is asa bahana, since even though you're not going to have hana with it, it's just a token thing. Something which is a chometz on Pesach. Others say, Bei Amar Papa Lemuti Mabeya. The kosher, what the word kosher tell you, I'm going to read it. We said before, it comes to include a keli out of dung. That for sure is no good because it's repulsive to use a keli made out of dung, and therefore we don't need a pasuk to remind us. Then the Mishnah says that simon koines or madbeya. Simon is considered the commodity because it's not yet a minted coin, so therefore it's a commodity. You're coining the madbeya, right? So you make a mashiach, you owe the money. So the Gemara, what exactly is a simon? What is a simon? This is the token they used to give when they went to the bathhouse. Meso asks a question and says, you're not allowed to on this thing called a simon. It says clearly here, and not on money that you give as a token to Beis Merchet. So we see a simon is not that. That's not what a simon is. You say, no, it's really the same thing. He explained to you what is a simon, the token you give to a bathhouse. Well, the Tanakh does. I'll show you another place. It says Abdeisi says you can use a simon to mechal. You could. No, it's compared to fruit, it's considered money. Remember, you can only use it to transfer it to money. But it's compared to fruit, compared to money, it's not money. Like you had a few times. That's silver gold. But compared to fruit, it's money. Like I had a machlekes yesterday about gold. Can you go straight to transfer the gold? The Chacham say, "Ein mechalin." Chacham say, "No, you can't." But the Shavin, you all agree, "Ein mechalin mois hanitim b'tzir beis merchetz." Clearly, that asimoin is not the same thing as a token you give to a beis merchetz.
So there's a special beis merchetz coin.
That's what it seems like, a token. You have a special coin. Elam Rabbi Yechon. It's like that, yeah. Elam Rabbi Yechon, my asimin. You know what asimin is? Pulsa. It's a simon is a coin minus the mint. It's not a token. It's ready to be a coin. It just needs the stamp. It's missing the stamp. Go what? A blank. Okay. But the Rabbi Yechon Tamer, Rabbi Yechon is consistent as you. Rabbi Yechon, he says. So we're saying it that you could use an asimin for. So he continues. He says, Rabdeisa, who over here said that you could use an asimin for Ma'aser Sheni, and Rabbi Shmuel, Amru Davar Echad. And what's an asimin we're saying now is a coin before you minted it. Rabdeisa is Hoda'amin. Rabdeisa is what we just said, that he says clearly you could take Ma'aser Sheni and transfer the Kedusha of Ma'aser Sheni onto asimin. Rabbi Shmuel, Mai. What's the story of Rabbi Shmuel? The Tanya we learned, it says in the pasuk, you should go ahead and you can bundle up the money in your hand. The rabbis called over anything that you bundles up, including an asimin. Rabbi Kiva the rabbis called over you can use any kind of money, but it needs to have a stamp on it already. Then the Mishnah says, Ketzad, Moshach Menu Pedis, he made a Mashiach on the Pedis. The Loin Noslan, maybe didn't pay for it yet. Mashiach is Kaina, and Yochalach, but you cannot change your mind. Now, Rabbi Yechon says, big machlek is, we'll explain a little bit. Rabbi Yechon says, Dvar Toida, Meha Toida, Mois Kainis. Rabbi Yechon says, Meha Toida, money is the king. So why do we say that Mashiach is the king? We're worried. If the buyer gave the money and the vendor still has the stock, he's not going to look after it. So, if somebody said it to a lie, that person will reimburse him. So what are you worried about? What are you trying to protect here? If somebody went and lit a fire, we'll catch that person, and that person will have to pay. The arsonist. Not will be an arsonist. We're going to be an accident happens or a flood or something like that. And if you say to the vendor, look, it does not belong to the kech yet, he'll be moist nefesh. But if he feels that it's already given over, he won't be that extra mile he won't do. So that's the view of Rabbi Yechon. Now Rashi before said already, he gives another reason that the Meichen has a vested interest in protecting the goods, because if the price goes up, he wants to be able to change his mind and then turn around and say, look, I sold you for $100, but I can get now $150. He could buy. So he has a vested interest in protecting the stock to make sure that it's in good quality, good condition, so that he can change his mind if he need to be. Reish Lakish says Mashiach mefaresh is not Teda. Reish Lakish says that Mashiach is meferesh in the Teda. Now, before we get back to it, how do we understand Rabbi Yechon? First of all, where's Rabbi Yechon know the most Kedim Teda? Where's saying the Teda? Big Machlek is a shame. Rashi says in a few places it says v'nosan hakesef v'kamloi. By hegdish it says you give the money and the hegdish belongs to you. Clear that kesef the kinyan. No, so how can Shlokish argue? So Tais explains in a few places. The Shlokish argues because he holds that there you can't do Mashiach. Why can't you do Mashiach?
It's not in front of you.
No. By Hegdish. By Hegdish, you have no choice. You want to buy from Hegdish, you can't schlep it back from Hegdish. Why? Because Kol Bei goes Rachmani. Wherever it's going to be, Mashiach means you're taking it out of the shus of the owner and you bring it to my shus. But by the Abish, exactly, the Abish is everywhere. Hashem Haaretz Malaya. So therefore, you have no breda. But everywhere else, Mashiach is good. That's one way. Have other ways of learning shot. Big Machlek is a shaynim. The Ramban comes along and says that according to Rabbi Yechanan, Moy is kindness, but not Mashiach. If it did Mashiach, not kind at all. Many other Rishonim hold, they want to say even the Rambam, that when Rabbi Yechanan says Moy is kindness, he's not saying La Fukim Mashiach. Mashiach is also kindness, but so is Moy. And what's the Raya? Pashat Svara. The Svara is like this. What about if I give you a matana? How are you going to be kindness? There's no Moy there. How are you kindness? Only through Mashiach. A gazlan. Chinyoni Gneva. There's no money going changing hands. It's only Mashiach. So once you establish that Mahatay the Mashiach is a Kenyan, Rabbi Yechanan is not coming along and saying, "Oh, the Racham cancel Mashiach." He said, "He's
nice if the Mashiach.
He said, "Moish Kamatay is nice to Mashiach." That's what he's saying. Other Shem hold no mefedish not. Where you have no breda, Mashiach is Kenyan, but we have a breda, definitely Moish is Kenyan. There's the third opinion. That goes Mordechai. He learns. He brings from the Rishonim that. In fact, you give him a tana, since there's no mois, he holds like the Ramban that Mashiach is not kaina. So the only way you kaina matana is through kinyan chotzer or kinyan agav, not through Mashiach, because not taida. Or put it in your karka. So Mahatayda. Rabban came along and said Mashiach is kaina, but Mahatayda you could not be kaina with mois. You cannot be kaina with Mashiach. What's left? Chotzer. Yes, exactly. So how? That's it. Through Kinyan Chotzer, Kinyan Agav. Then they ask a question. All the Hashem want to know. According to the Shlokish who holds that according to Rabbi Yechanan, if you hold the shitta that Mashiach is not kaina, that means that how is Chotzer kaina? Chotzer metam yad. But you tell me about Torah, there's no yad. There's no yad, no Mashiach, nothing. How you kaina? Unless yad is different than Mashiach. And there's a whole discussion. Now. The Shlokish comes along and said that the Mashiach is Mahatayda and Mufreshes. Where's Mufreshes? My time is the Shlokish. I'm going to the Pasuk. It says the Pasuk there in Bahar. If you make a sale to your friend, this is the laws of Einoy, not cheat. You buy something from your friend and it says miyad from the hand. How are you buying it? By transferring it. That's Mashiach. Miyad means Miyad means only something that's transferable. When is there enough? Only something which is portable, mobile, a metaltlin, but not what? Not when it comes to property. We had a machlekes Rishonim when we say karka ein lo means no at all, because eventually property will reach that price, or shad is up to 50%. You can't, up to normally it's only a sixth. Here we go much higher, up to 50%. The Reish Lakish, how does you know? If you want to just learn that it's something that's transferable, just say why do you have to say autoinu? Why say oikainu again or you bought? To tell you that that's the method of buying metaltlin is what? Through yad mishicha. So I'm not was he doing tackets redundant? The boy like it easy for the following. You shouldn't cheat. All we know is that the buyer was cheated, the buyer is entitled to a refund. If the meich is sold too cheap, it's his own fault. Why? How do you know that you can reverse the deal? It's your item, you could done your homework. Says twice. No, there's one for the lekech and one for the meichel. Both of them, if they cheated, they can reverse the whole thing. But the Shlokish Tartik government able learn two things from here. Now, big machlekes are showing in the Balamoy and the Rif and others. What happens? How do you understand when we say that the Meichel says that Ma'atoy the Moy is the kindness, and the Rabbana came along and said Mashiach is kindness? Ma'atoy the Mashiach is kindness. Sorry, Moy is kindness, and the Rabbana Mashiach is kindness. So what did the Rabbana say? What happens? What happens as follows: you, the Lakeya, the Meichel, kept the stock. I gave you the money, right? I tell you I wasn't kind of. I said I'm kind of, but the Rabbani came along and said, no, you need Mashiach. And then they got burnt. Can the Lekech say, hey, you can't give me the stock, give me back my money? Or not?
Did the transaction already finish?
So, in other words, the Machlekes Balmoin, the Rif, and others are like this. Is the pshat that Chacham came along and canceled the whole kinyan of Mois? There's no kinyan. It's uis. The Taita says, yeah, how can the Chacham do that? So they talk about it, hefke, and hefke, whatever. But they completely mavatul the kinyan of Mois. Ebazei, I gave you Mois, you gave me nothing, give me my money back. All the voters know. The kinyan is a valid kinyan. Chachamik don't have the keach to be oikid the whole kinyan. What the Chachamik say is, we're giving the lekeach the right to change his mind. But Kozman, the item is in existence, he can change his mind. You say, you know what? You keep the stock, I'll take my money back. But the moment the stock is no longer in existence, how can you change your mind? Change your mind means take it back the way it was, status quo, but there's no status quo because the stock is no longer here. So then Fafal, the Lekech loses the money. Do the Chachamim, the Shaili is, do the Chachamim have the Kech to be Eikin and Gans in the midst of this method of the Tater, or the Chachamim impose another layer on it that says, you know what? The Lekech give me Chayzer. The big Machlek is showing that's not committed. Okay, weiter. Taking about further. Now we learn. Rav Shimon says, "Posha hakesed biyoda yoda eliyana." Shimon argues that he said, "Whoever knows the vendor is the only one who can change his mind, not the buyer." The vendor could change his mind because he has the money in his hand, but the buyer, once he gave the money, that's it. It's over. Now, if you tell me that Moises kindness makes sense. So since Mahatayla, the Lekech is already finished, the Lekech did his thing, the Rabbana came along, what did they do? They didn't want to be changing the whole thing of the Taylor. They just said, you know what? The Meicha can change his mind. The Meicha can change his mind. It makes sense why the Lekech can't. Why? Because the Taylor says that money is kind of. Eliyam, tell me money ain't kind of. If you tell me about what? That money is not kind of, like the Shlokish learns, so the mind of committed. Why is that fair? Why can the Meicha change his mind, not the Lekech? If money is not kind of anyway, the only kinyan is Mashiach. If he gave money, that means nothing happened. So why can't the Lekech change his mind? Lekech not be let debate. The Lekech also change his mind. I'll grant you a liber de Rab Shimon lekamina. My whole argument of Yechon is according to Tanakama, not according to Rab Shimon. Kamina, you're right. According to Rab Shimon, definitely holds that Meis. Rab Shimon definitely holds that Meis is kindness matrayda, and that's why the Lekech is fafalin, and the Meicha can change his mind because he definitely holds. That like the Balamoya that the Chachamim were not oiker the kinyan completely. They just added a layer. What was the layer that the Meicha could change his mind? And the Tanakam also know that the layer was that they both can change their mind. That's how the Balamoya. That makes sense. Rab Shimon Rabban, but the Meicha kindness matter not. Rabbi Yechon, what's the machlekes? You know the crux of the argument is did Rav Chizda or Rav Chizda say? What Rav Chizda say? Rav Chizda says just like we made a Mashiach that the Meicha can change his mind. Koz man the Lekech didn't take it. So too we made the Mashiach that also should benefit the Lekech that the Lekech can also change his mind. Rav Shimon less Rav Chizda, he says only the Meicha. We only made one takana, not two takanas. Rabban Yisrael Rav Chizda, what made two takanas to benefit both. And now we learn, we make this curse, as we'll soon see. That you should know exactly. Keep your word. That we have Misha Pada Midoid Hamabul, who was in the part of Misha Aina Midabud. If you don't keep your word, then we're going to get punished. If you tell me now, why are we cursing? If you tell me that something happened, but the Rabbanan says no, since Mahatayla it's really yours, you have to continue with your word. Makes sense why we curse him. If you tell me that nothing happened, then my what did he do? I said I do and I don't. Why? Because he said something. Just because I said something, is there avon? In fact, it's very interesting. If you look in Masechta Kala, in the beginning of Masechta Kala, Machlek B'Sham Esil B'Keitz V'Nagdish Kala, the whole Gemara there, and Beis Shammai says to Beis Hillel, says, how can you say Kala no b'chasud? In our Gemara Ksuvis, we don't have it, but Masechta Kala, Beis Hillel answers. You know when we say Midvar Sheketichah, the Noki Tzareg Al Tareg, only when it comes to Bezdin. Mahatayda, there's nothing wrong with lying. When is it asa to lie if it affects a bezin? Otherwise, there's no isa Mahatayda, which we'll see in tomorrow's Gemara. That test. Sorry, tomorrow's Gemara. So good now. Sorry, it's all right. Okay. Sorry, actually, if you want to know all the pratim of that, then you're looking simukuf above. Faket, Al Rebbe's Machman doesn't sort of goes into detail. When yeah, when no. That's why it's buried in Daf Memzayim Memtes actually. So most people don't get this. So it's only Tamil Chachamim that know all these tricks. I think about it. Yeah, I'm the Moise and the might koi ba'avam. One should vary better, but vary me koi ba'avam just because he said something too good up. There's an aval here. But then we learn that Shimon Afa Pisha Amru Talis Kaina Dinazov, even though we say that a talis is Kain Dinazov. I don't know if you mean Mashiach and the talis is the commodity and the Dinazov is the money. You made because money is not Kaina. So if you made a Mashiach and the talis, your money, yeah. But they dinazov kind of talis. If you gave a dinazov, you're not kind of the talis said because compared to this, dinazov is definitely money. Nevertheless, that is the halacha. What? That we cannot force them. In other words, even we cannot force them to say that you have to keep by this promise and so on. So even could we say a din azov does not buy a talis? If the guy wants, he can walk away, even though he paid for it already. Since he didn't make a shikha, he can walk away. That's halacha. I want you to know. I don't know. I was trying to look up why some. I was trying to work out why some have limited curses, some had more curses. It's not even which bezin it is. Suddenly here we add on Al Mishnah doesn't mention it, and then the Mitzrayim, not Stam Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim b'Yam, only the Mitzrayim when it's in the Yamsuf. The Mitzrayim that said Makkah is in Ishkefelach was 5 times as much as the Yam. And there's also 5 times as much. Also, that's when they lost all the money. They even took away the business of Yam. So we just keep on laboring one curse at another curse. Who astly part of Misha with the body, he'll get punished as well. But if you only talk words, there's no kin at all. If you only gave a word, you didn't pay any money. First part of the Bryce talking about you gave money, but the money is not a kinyan. Second part of the Bryce is that you gave a word, but you didn't give any money. Then ein ruach hacham lechmer. We had a number of times that I'm not very happy with you. But what are the consequences of that? No consequences. In other words, it's a pasnish. It's inappropriate. Be a mensch. If you want to be a mensch,
he's doing these things.
He doesn't know. He thinks it's all right. But Amar Rabba says, Rabba, Anu ein lanu. Rabba says, Anu ein lanu ela ein ruach. I want you to know that it's when we say you would have thought. I mean, look at Taiz Hashem. We would have thought that ein ruach means will curse you. No. It's a different get altogether. Ein ruach is a different get. Remember we had about. Remember we had before. If you accept the ribbas back, ein ruach you want to give incentive to these guys and the guy and so on. It's not the same thing as Mishapara. It's a whole different get. The Mishapara is a terrible thing. We'll see. This is not the same thing. Okay, now you have it's a long. Yeah, but you see from the Gemara here, you can add as much as you want. They just added, so now we can add more things. Yeah. The Ika, someone answered like this. So what's this thing about Abel? Yeah. The Ika is like this. Now, according to Rabbi Yechon, who holds that Mois is kindness, we understand why you get Mishapara. Because it's already yours. So the Rabbanan came along to help you out, and you're using the Rabbanan to disadvantage the Moichet. Of course, you deserve a Mishapara. But according to the Shlokis, the whole question, according to the Shlokis, that nothing happened because Mois is not kindness. Why does he deserve a Mishapara? What did he do wrong? So we said this. We did 2 things. First of all, you promised you're going to buy this thing, and you paid for it. So even though it's not a kinyan, but you did a pa'ula, then koi ba'aval. Then you get this mishapara business. But you just said something. Hein, lav, as we'll see that from test. Then loy koi ba'aval. Especially if circumstances change.
So was there Maisa involved or not? That's the trigger for
even though exactly. Even though it's not a kinyan according to the shlokish, because the shlokish Maisa is not kinyan matayr at all.
If it's not words, so okay.
But you have you'll see later. Hein l'chosh tzedek, v'lav shachot tzedek. We'll see that from test. Like koi ba'aval, it does not go ba'aval. Let's pause for a minute.